welcome to On the Same Page with Bryna Butler and me. I'm Casey Bond. We're going to jump right into a book that we both read and loved called Blood Heir by Emily Winslow. And I've got to tell you, I love books with magic and I love fantasy books. You all know that. But I really enjoyed this story. It's basically a retelling of Anastasia. But with magic, and specifically blood magic for one certain princess. So it's really interesting. The kingdom of Cerealia is basically divided into magicals and non, and the magicals have affinities. They're called affinites, and Anna is an affinite. There was an issue at a market where an accident took place when she was really young, so they sort of hid her away.
Yeah, they taught her that her affinity was a bad one.
Yeah, and she was terrified of her own power. They didn't teach her to control it, which was probably a bad idea.
And really, I thought it was unique in this story where those that have the magical capabilities, they're really kind of the downtrodden. They're not lifted up where you see in so many other stories.
Yes, very much. But it's very interesting because when she basically breaks out of prison with the help of a con man who's pretty slick.
He has the best name ever, Ramson Quicktongue. Yeah. That's a nice name.
And it turns out he's like the number two to like what basically amounts to like a kingpin. I mean, so it's a really bad guy. And so he knows people. He helps them escape.
He's a fallen kingpin, and he's trying to climb his way back up.
And he's funny. And I doubted his motives the whole way. I was like, is he just playing her?
His name's Quicktongue.
Yeah, but she beautiful. Her characterization of him was great.
I found him to be a very tangled Finn character.
Yes, that's
kind
exactly
of how
what I thought too.
I pictured him as kind of a neat twist there, and it kind of also tied in the fairy tale feel of the whole thing.
Yeah.
One of the taglines that I'd seen for this book that really caught my eye when I found it was that in this game, the princess may be the most dangerous player of all.
Yeah.
And they really find that to be true because her affinity is her magic is over blood. And she can control the blood in other people.
Yeah, so she can
when you think
she
about
can make bruises like pop out on you. She can make your blood explode. She can do all kinds of neat stuff.
Heat the blood. Yeah.
So when they bust out of prison, she learns that the things in her kingdom are not what she was led to believe all these years. There's a lot of corruption, a lot of dirty dealings. Her brother is in trouble. There's schemes to kill him. Nobody knows she's alive. It's a lot of drama, and it was a really fast-paced story.
Capturing and using these people with these magical affinities.
Yeah. It gave me almost like a Hunger Games kind of vibe, the way they were doing, like they were having the Affinites fight each other in these arenas and stuff, and it gave you that that time back in ancient Rome and the Hunger Games vibe there for a little bit. But I really thought it was an inventive story, and I enjoyed it.
I did too. I did too.
It was a good read if you're looking for a fantasy with magic.
Blood Heir.
Yeah.
I think you've got the first book up this time, Casey.
I am so excited.
So what did you read about?
This was one of my favorites this week, and it's called The Crown of Coral and Pearl. I think he's going to put the cover up there so you can see it. But it's from Mara Rutherford, and I picked it up because of the cover. I'm going to be honest, I'm a sucker for a nice cover. And what you see there are blood coral and these pink pearls that only form in oysters near the blood coral. So they're
so that's a real thing?
Well, no, I think it's a
magic thing. Okay.
But they're important, and I just wanted to draw your attention to that because the main characters are named for these the pearls and the corals. So the story begins in Verenia. It's basically a sea-bound village. Everything is like on stilt houses. They row in boats. They swim. They're not on land. They're not permitted to be on land at all. But they're basically the kingdom of Ilara uses these people to harvest their the pearls for them because and they think they're just using it because they're wealthy and that they're wearing pearl necklaces and all this stuff. That's not the case at all. But we don't learn that until later. So basically, the prettiest girl in Verenia is chosen to wed the prince of Ilara. And so there are twin girls named Noor and Zadie. And Noor is named after the blood coral, and Zadie is named after the pearls. And Zadie is chosen to go and marry this prince, but she doesn't want to go because she's in love with like the governor's son.
Okay.
So she stings herself with a jellyfish and scars her legs.
Gosh.
And they send Noor in her place.
Okay.
And it's just really interesting because when she gets to Ilara, you start realizing that everything they've been told about how wonderful this opportunity was and how you're going to be queen is just not what it's wrapped up to be. There's a lot going on.
It's usually a case with arranged marriage and these things.
There's a lot going on there that's just really bad. She finds out that her people are absolutely getting an unfair shake, let's just say, and that they're not using these pearls for, to adorn themselves or for wealth. They're eating them, they're crushing them and eating them because they have like magical healing powers.
Oh, okay.
And the people in Ilara are sick and dying. The king, the prince, everybody. So it's bad, but there's a lot of devious twists and turns at the court. If you like court drama, like with the different like nobles and stuff, you're gonna love this book. Okay. But I love the different worlds. Like she built the sea world first, and it was so neat. And then when she built the Ilara on land, which is basically inside this big mountain, it's really drab and dark. It's just such a big shift from the sunshine and the sea. She built both worlds really masterfully. I enjoyed this book. She's got another one coming out, a sequel called Kingdom of Sea and Stone, and I cannot wait to read it.
Now, do you think that's another kingdom yet, or is that going to be
No, I think that's the same. I think it's going to be a trilogy.
Okay.
So that's the second book's title. I don't know the third one yet, but I'm excited.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a great read.
Awesome. One of the books I picked up this time was Forgotten Girl by India Hill Brown. And first I want to say that if you're looking for a Black History Month read, this is a great book to pick up. Oh, the feels that this one gave to me, Casey. It follows Iris and Daniel, who are two kids. They were playing in the woods and come across a grave hidden under the leaves.
Ooh.
And go home later, and Iris finds that a ghost of a little girl followed her home. And she keeps seeing the ghost, and the ghost finally asks her for help. So she and Daniel go back to research and find that this grave is one of a whole cemetery that has been lost to time. It was a segregated cemetery.
Oh my goodness.
That it just wasn't kept up, and all these people have been forgotten. And so the whole story is about them remembering these people that had very small contributions, what would seem small contributions on the surface, but were big contributions to their community as far as fighting segregation.
Yeah.
And just a beautifully done read. There are a lot of instances where you feel the cold. I know you saw the kind of the snowflakes on the cover, and
I love the
I
cover.
love authors that when you're reading and they talk about the cold, you just kind of feel the chill up your arms.
Yes.
And this was kind of that, and just. When I said beautiful, I can't, beautiful is not even a strong enough word. This was a gorgeously written book, and I'd highly recommend it.
What ages do you think it's okay
This one
for?
is, I believe it's probably a middle grade book,
Okay.
Just by the ages of the main characters, completely clean text, nothing graphic or anything in it.
I asked because my daughter.
Middle grade, perfect for Juliet.
Yeah,
Eris,
that's awesome.
Eris too, so.
That's great. Next, I'm going to talk about Serpent and Dove. I think we have a graphic.
Now, I have seen this online a bunch of times,
by
Casey.
Shelby Mahurin. And I hope I'm not butchering everybody's name. I really apologize if I am. But this is a book about magic and witches. And the thing I love about this book is that it's funny and it's heartfelt and there's dark and there's light. And it's just a deliciously written book. It's just, it sucked me in, and I did not want to stop turning pages. Do you ever get one like that? You're like,
yeah.
One more chapter, one more page. So it was one of those books for me. But it's basically like the witches in Serpent and Dove are not good witches for the most part.
Now, I know how you love witches, but you usually like
witches.
witches with a redeeming quality.
Right. Well, there is one in this book, but the rest of them are pretty bad, and they're kind of wreaking havoc. So in this world that she's built, it feels very French. There's a lot of French terminology and things, and there are these. There's an archbishop who sort of rules over this town alongside the monarchy, and he's got just as much power as them, if not more. And he has this group of soldiers that he's groomed to take care of these witches, because church versus witch is like ages old issue. So. What happens is that Lou is a witch in hiding. She ran away from her coven, who are just atrocious and just horrible people. And she's kind of been in hiding for quite a while. And she lives in the top of this like theater, and she borrows their, she'll steal their dresses and stuff, and like, from their costumes.
Costume department.
So it's just really fun. But she's actually a really good person, and she winds up getting into a scuffle with one of these officers that the Archbishop has handpicked himself, and the Archbishop says because he's going to be scandalized, they have to get married. So she agrees to it because he can actually hide her. He can't sense her magic for some reason, and so she's living among these
witch hunters as a witch. Yes,
and it's actually really funny because she's always like pushing his buttons, because I guess she knows how. But it's just really funny. It's a great read. A lot of action. We learn in the end that she's a very important person to the witches, and that's why they've been scouring the city for her.
Okay.
And part of the reason they've been there and looking, and in all the crowds there's a witch, and they show up unannounced, and they're not just going after the royals, they're looking for her. So.
All right.
The sequel is Blood and Honey, and I cannot wait to read it. I think the cover was revealed today. I haven't seen it online, but I'm ready. I'm ready for this book now.
Nice.
So anytime. So it'll be released later this fall, I believe, though. But I really enjoyed it. It's got a lot of magic. It's got the romance. It's got funny banter. It's like an enemies to lovers sort of thing.
And it seems like a real suspenseful thriller too, with her hiding among the witch hunters.
And the characters are so great because Reed is like really stiff, and he follows the rules, and you don't do this and you don't do that, and she's just like, whatever, let's just go. And it's just so fun because she's like stealing things, and he's like, you can't steal. It's just a lot of fun, though.
Nice.
I highly recommend it.
Okay. My next book was The Light at the Bottom of the World by London Shaw. And it's set in the future. Everyone now lives underwater. And Layla lives in London. Her father's recently been taken by the authorities. They suspect him of helping some folks. There's a sickness that kind of plagues their world. They call it seasickness, but it's actually a depression because they have to live underwater in this dystopian world. So he's been accused. There's several of them that died kind of under mysterious circumstances, and he's been accused of helping them find death with euthanasia. So the authorities take him, but they take him kind of in secret, won't tell her where he is, she has no recourse on to get him back. He's not having a trial. She can't figure out what's going on. Nobody's talking. And so she exhausts every possibility she has, and her final last chance grasp is to win the big race that the civilization has every year. It's a submersible race. And so
that's awesome.
She seeks out to do race and try to win the top prizes. You get to pick. You pick your own prize. So her pick, of course, is going to be that her father's freed.
Wow.
So it's about her and trying to get to her father. The race actually starts chapter 4.
That's awesome.
And so it's right away, fast action right away.
I love that.
That's all I'm going to say about this book, because that's only like the first third of this book.
Really?
Yeah. It takes a crazy turn. Out of the blue. I can't call it a 180 because that makes it sound like it comes back. I mean, it takes a wild turn. And so it's very unpredictable. There is a romantic interest in it. She gets sent a bodyguard from a family member that kind of takes care of her, and there's a twist with him too. And
it sounds amazing.
Just a really, really cool read. There's genetically modified people in it. There's, of course, the race component. It's just a really good adventure thriller.
Yeah. Is it a standalone or a sequel? Or does it have a sequel?
It doesn't have a sequel yet.
Okay, gotcha.
It's new out. I expect there would be a sequel, but I haven't heard a title yet.
I love the cover. I like the jellyfish. That was really neat.
It's really neat.
It looks great.
And it's neat how she describes, because she lives in London, but it's underwater London. And
Yeah.
there's times she goes into parts of old London, which is now flooded. And, it's kind of neat where she talks about the different landmarks that we would know today.
That's
And how
awesome.
they've aged underwater.
That's
kind of thing.
really fascinating. I
So,
like
neat
dystopian books
landscapes.
too.
Yeah.
I like it.
Oh, yeah. The whole underwater thing was just a real neat aspect.
Yeah, it's
of it.
really unique. That's awesome. Okay, next I'm going to talk about Out Cold, and I was fortunate enough to read this.
I'm so jealous.
It hasn't been published yet. It's actually coming out Friday, so you don't have to wait long if you are looking for
And this is February
a book.
2020 if you're listening to
Yeah.
this video later. So you know exactly when it comes out.
It's coming out February the 7th. But if you're looking for a book to sink your teeth into, I see what I did there.
Nice.
This is it. So Out Cold is, gosh, can I just say how awesome Misty Provencher's writing is? We've talked about Cast before.
Yes.
We're both big
Oh my
fans. And this is just, the story is incredible.
I have been dying to read this one, Casey. Dying.
You need it in your life. So Nova Ford, she has suffered a traumatic brain injury. She's in a car wreck. It claimed the lives of her parents. She's living with family who do not want her there. They've got addiction problems and different things, and she doesn't want to be there any more than they want her there. But that's what her life panned out. That's how it panned out, and she's sort of stuck. And she's in New Baltimore, Michigan, which is where Misty is from, so I'm sure she based it there. But she passes this local museum, and they're advertising this special exhibit. And part of the exhibit, it's all based on this urban legend. And it surrounds this wedding dress that supposedly someone comes once a year to toast this wedding dress and disappears mysteriously. And so they're having this big event to show this wedding gown off, and she's just stuck on this dress. She's like, she can't pull her out, she can't get
She's
this
drawn
whole
to it
urban
somehow,
legend
yeah.
out of her mind. It sinks its teeth into her and won't let her go. Well, as the story moves on, she just keeps learning more and more about herself, and there are a lot of the mystery surrounding the dress begins to unravel. Turns out New Baltimore has some vampires, holla, and she gets mixed up in this underground vampire.
Over a dress.
Over a dress. It's always over a dress. It's over a dress or a guy. No, I'm teasing. But if you like romance, if you like vampires and urban legends, it just a well-written book, because her imagery,
Her world building skills.
Yes.
Yeah. Just
it's
amazing.
like amazing. So I loved it. Out Cold. I know this is going to be a series. I'm not sure exactly what the other books are named offhand, but it's one that you're gonna want to, like, as soon as you turn the last page, you're gonna be like, where's the other book? So I really enjoyed it. Good job, Misty.
No, awesome. And speaking of vampires, I picked up a book called Slayer by Kirsten White, and this is actually canon in the official Buffy the Vampire Slayer universe. And I think Casey knows what a big Buffy fan I am. And I was someone who loved the series. I did love this book. It takes place immediately after the TV show ends, but before the Fray comics begin.
Nice.
And so she, according to the author's website, she had the official okay from the powers that be to write this, and so it is considered canon as far as the Buffyverse goes. There is one little minor detail in that this is follows the twins of Merrick, who was Buffy's first watcher in the movie that came before when she was in Cleveland in the movie.
Yeah.
So of course Merrick passed away, but these are his twin daughters. And I guess I haven't read the Fray comics, but I guess in there it mentions at one point that there has never been known to be a Slayer that's a twin. And the way they explain that is because these books are set with the Watchers Council in complete chaos.
Right.
And when I say that, it is complete chaos. It is not the Watchers Council you remember from the series. If you remember at the end of that series, the Watchers Council got blown up.
Yeah.
And many of the Watchers were killed. So You kind of find them in this, I believe it's 2 months after kind of that end of the world, kind of when they closed up the Hellmouth there in Sunnydale. It comes in at that point. The Watchers Council is still trying to rebuild themselves. There's not very many there, just the ones that were off on co-op missions are kind of the only ones left, the ones that weren't there.
Yeah.
And of course, these two sisters, and one of the sisters, of course, starts showing some Slayer tendencies. So, of course, Buffy kind of unleashed the power to make all the potential Slayers at the end of that series. And so she didn't exhibit those symptoms right away, but she's starting to now.
I love it.
So, and the other sister has been, of course, trained to be a watcher all her life and a warrior.
Oh.
So, really kind of neat dynamic. You have the two. What surprised me most was the author's attention to detail with that, and that these two sisters, of course, their father died for Buffy in that original movie, and you see they still hold that bitterness for her.
Right.
And she's not perfect like everybody else seems to think she is. You know, they hold this bitterness for her, and I thought that was a real neat kind of detail within it. Very great adventure. There's actually going to be 2 of these books. The other one, Chosen, is had just come out in January 2020.
Wow.
So it's available now too, and I think I've got I've got the cover for Chosen.
Beautiful.
The twins are redheaded, and of course you see those redheaded girls on the covers of those. Nina and Artemis, Athena and Artemis.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty clever. And it's actually based in London. You see some of the familiar characters come back. There's and it's kind of funny because I feel like it was written for Buffy fans in that when the people come back, the twins don't necessarily recognize them because they hadn't been around those Buffy central characters. Right. So they don't really call them by name or anything, but you know by their actions who they are a lot of times before you realize. It's just really cool.
Kirsten White
Buffy, Faith. Oh, yeah.
Like, she's
awesome.
so good at characterization. I remember I talked about Andi Darkin.
Yes.
It was like it's like a Vlad's daughter. And man, she was so good with that book. And then she's got Now I Rise. I'm a big fan of Kirsten White.
These characters are
She's
very
so
well
good.
developed
Yes.
in this book. So, it's funny. They even make a funny comment about that watcher that went to work for the vampire in Los Angeles, which is, of course, Wesley, who went to work for Angel, and, you know, kind of making fun of him in passing, you know, and so that, because the watchers think that's stupid, why would a watcher go work for a vampire? And it's just funny seeing kind of that other side of the Buffyverse.
That's great. It sounds like something I'd love to read. The next book I'm going to talk about is Nameless Queen. I think we have a graphic. I love this cover. It's
I do.
Rebecca McLaughlin, and it's so pretty. And I guess I had, just looking at the cover, I had different expectations from what this book was. It's a lot. I thought I was going to get like a pretty princess novel. It's so much more than that. It's very deep as far as like classes and the class discrimination among the haves and the have-nots. I thought it was really neat. So basically what happens is that there's different classes of people. There are royals, there are legals who basically have like prestigious jobs.
Okay.
And then there are people that don't matter, and they're called the nameless. They do not get spoken names or birth names, and they choose their own names. And so this girl named Coin, she chose her name because she's a thief and a pickpocket.
Coin. Cute.
The king dies, and he whispers somebody's name, and what happens is that his power and magic transfers to whoever's name he whispers, and she wakes up, and there's this magical tattoo on her arm that signifies that she's the queen.
Oh.
And she wasn't going to tell anybody because she thinks, well, I'm nameless, they're going to kill me if they find out that I've got this tattoo. Because if I die, it passes to someone else.
Okay.
So she didn't want to do that, but one of her friends, also a nameless, gets picked up in the marketplace, and they're going to kill her. They're going to run her through for stealing.
For stealing. Oh.
And
So
she
she's
says in the name of the
her.
queen and rips her sleeve off and is like,
Oh!
and then she's in trouble. That starts this whole snowball.
Okay.
But there's like a female general who wants power. And who says that, you know, we'll let you live until this. Basically, they have these assassin games. She's got to battle her way to the queen, to the crown.
Oh, wow.
So if she beats everyone, then the crown stays hers. And if they beat her, then she speaks their name and it has to transfer.
Yeah, I don't think I want that tattoo.
Yeah, so, but there's a lot of just underhandedness with people using these nameless, like, for just like just treat them like garbage. And so she's very much a champion for her people, and to get these other people to see that they're human beings. And it's just a beautiful, well-written story. There's not really a romance per se in this one, but I just love the dynamic of just people being kind and people learning how to be kind when they've been prejudiced for so long. So it was an eye-opening story. It was really great.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, I kind of stayed on my vampire kick for the next one. It's called Peace, Blood, and Understanding by one of my very favorite authors, Molly Harper. And this one is a Half Moon Hollow novel. I haven't read any of the Half Moon Hollow novels before, but I understand there's several of them. I couldn't even dare to guess how many there are. This one's kind of, there's, in the Half Moon Hollow novels, there's kind of a recurring story with a couple of vampires named Dick and Jane. And Dick's last name is Cheney, actually, which is even sillier.
That's funny.
But this kind of shoots it off into a new direction a little bit with the introduction of Meadow. I think Meadow's probably who's pictured on the cover, because Meadow's kind of a hippy-dippy type vampire. She runs the local herbal shop and does custom teas for all the town's inhabitants that helps them for whatever ails them. And she's kind of this laid-back person. She starts working for the kind of the regional vampire office. She starts working them as an assistant archivist. Well, as this is going along and some things are happening in her life, the Vampire Council decides to send an auditor to the regional office. And so he comes in, and his job is to figure out what's going on, because Jane is in charge now and she's running things a little bit differently in the past. She's not corrupt like they were in the past. That's what the difference is. And they think she's doing something wrong because everything's different, and she's having weird expenditures and stuff because she's actually doing her job. So they send this person in. Well, someone's trying to sabotage them. So when this guy shows up, a virus hits all the computers, things get unleashed out of the archives, and mayhem ensues. So they're trying to track down who is kind of behind the conspiracy to get Dick and Jane ousted from the regional office. And it is an adult paranormal romance. So there's this big romance between Meadow and the auditor that comes to town.
That's awesome.
So very good. She also writes the Mystic Bayou books. Those are paranormal romance as well. Just love those as well. Kind of that hometown, small town feel. This one's based in Kentucky, which is really cool because it's close to us. In Half Moon Hollow, Kentucky.
That's great. I was just going to mention, I will be at ApolloCon in March if you're going to be in Washington, D.C. for that, if you already have tickets. If not, I'm pretty sure they're sold out. And we're both going to be, you're going to be at Roanoke, aren't you?
No, I'm not this year. No.
Okay, I'll be at Roanoke Author Invasion. It's a free event at the Holiday Inn in Tanglewood in Roanoke, Virginia, if you'd like to come see
That's
me.
April 4th.
It's April the 4th, yes. Yeah. So,
yay. Awesome. I'm working on possibly HerdCon at Marshall University coming up in March.
That's exciting.
Possibly. Not sure yet.
That's awesome. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you next month.